Hey there, honeys and hunks. We're finally back. It's been a jam-packed week, so we had to push it back a day because there's so much we had to go through. Jade, have you ever seen this much news in 1 week that wasn't deadline or off-season related? Because I could barely keep up.
Never, ever, ever. Like, ever. And interestingly enough, of all the stuff which we're going to cover, it was mostly not COVID related. It was just stuff happening like crazy.
And that's what's been great because it's not just the same thing. That's what makes it great, but then also makes it super difficult for everyone to keep up with it. But before we go on, just a heads up, reminder, don't forget to follow us on social media on Facebook and Instagram at Hardcourt Hunnies, at Twitter at HC Hunnies. Also find us on YouTube, which is also streaming right now that it's on. So if you want to check us out there right now, it'd always be nice to see some views from there because I haven't seen too many on that, but that is okay still. We get by. So this week, like I said, lots of stuff going on. We're going to be getting into Phoenix moving on and the Jokic swipe, Denver losing, and then just the remaining series that are going on through the playoffs right now. And then CP3 getting some real bumming news, injuries and more injuries. And that has going to be an issue that's been going on all year, but it's continuing in the playoffs. More coaching musical chairs again. Some rumors of unhappy stars, the rookie of year announced, and a whole bunch more because I couldn't even get to it when I was finishing all my research for today with it. So we're going to just swing right into it. We'll go with Phoenix winning. Jade, Denver blow it, or is Phoenix that good right now?
I think Phoenix is that good. I also think Denver was without a star. And I said that kind of as soon as Jamal Murray got injured, that like they're going to make it through the regular season okay. They're going to make the playoffs. I don't know if they as a team and Jokic individually have enough to make up for a player whose best minutes come in the playoffs. Like, most players dip in the playoffs and Jamal Murray gets better.
That's where you see the players really like, oh, that's the superstar or whatever. That or else that's when the only time they shine and then they get the huge contract next year.
Right.
And then they do.
And then it's over.
I always
He's like the best of both worlds somehow.
I always give the big example for something like that in Bismack Biyombo.
Uh-huh.
He had a great playoff run for you guys one season. And then I think it was Orlando was like, we're going to pay you a lot. And you guys were like, okay, then.
Listen, buyer beware. Like,
yes.
You don't pick up players that teams like the Raptors let walk. Most of the time, there's a reason. And if you're not already a star like Lou Williams is, he's the sixth man of the year perennially, so many times. He was going to do that wherever. But, like, if it's a player that hasn't demonstrated that they do what they do anywhere and the Raptors let them go, there's a reason the Raptors were not willing to pay them the money.
I liked how Jokic sent a signed jersey to DeAndre Ayton.
Yeah.
Because he tried so hard that series to contain that man. And that's the only thing you can do is contain.
It's the only thing. And I thought Ayton did a respectable job.
He did. I like the one night when he checked the stat sheet and he was astounded seeing Jokic had 20 rebounds. He's like, 20 rebounds. And then the next game he went off. So that's always good.
Yeah. But I think the Nuggets were a victim of injury. If last season was COVID season, this season's injury season. I think if Jamal, I know if Jamal Murray is in that series, it's definitely not a sweep. It might mean the Nuggets go on to the first round.
Surprising. Well, so can't talk about this series without talking about the last game with Jokic doing that foul swipe. So first of all, a flagrant 2 got him ejected. Is that a flagrant 2 in your eyes?
I forgot to look at it, but I did read about it. And Go ahead.
I was gonna say, so essentially,
I'm going to try and pull it up while
like Cameron Payne got a rebound, and Jokic even said in the press conference was going for a frustration foul, but a hard foul just to gain momentum, just kind of rally the troops. And when he swiped him, it hit Cameron Payne right in the face. Flagrant 2, is it excessive? Yes. Was there intent? Yes. Was it at the face? Yes. And Reggie Miller pointed out, yes, it was only the face or it was only the nose that got hit. Yeah. But it doesn't take much to break a nose.
Well, I mean, above the shoulders is above the shoulders. It doesn't matter if it's just a nose. Like, my understanding of the rule is that it's above the shoulders is the area. It doesn't matter where above the shoulders it is.
So he said that he was trying to give morale for his troops. Is that just an out, or did Jokic kind of just give up on his team right there?
I don't know. He has always struck me as a fairly genuine person, genuine speaker. I expect that he probably is being honest about his intention, but like, he's a young player. This is his second playoff, and he's in charge. You know, like, a lot of stars get to lead playoff teams after they've been around the block a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't had that. He's learning on the fly, and he's learning it younger than a lot of the stars we've been accustomed to watching for the last several years, because you've had your Steph Currys and your LeBron Jameses and your Kevin Durant's, Hardens. Like, these guys have been around. They understand how the playoffs work. Jokic is still new to the playoffs. Has to be new to it and be in charge of his team. Also down to Jamal Murray. Like, I think it was just an error in judgment.
Does any of this fall on Mike Malone doing a full sweep? Like, I mean, yes, Denver is down a lot, but they do still there are reasons why they were still third in the Western Conference.
Yeah.
So, new game plan, maybe do a different thing with it. With Jokic, you can do a lot of different offensive setups.
You can do a lot. I think it's really hard to evaluate right now with, again, Murray having been out. I can't overstate this, and I think if you didn't realize it before, people understand how important Jamal Murray is to that team. Like, this season kind of worked perfectly for both of them, honestly. Because I don't think if Jamal hadn't been hurt, Jokic gets MVP. But everybody knows now that they need Jamal Murray out there. They needed him. And it's hard to evaluate how much a coach could have done when a team is built around two stars, like so many NBA teams are.
So going to Phoenix with it. So when Jokic did the foul, first person that went up to him was Devin Booker. Does that make you happy that your star player is the one that's going to stick up for the player? Or is that a moment where you wish you kind of had a meat shield player to protect your star player from doing that?
I mean, Booker didn't end up getting called for anything, right?
I think it's technical.
He got a technical. Yeah, I mean, considering where they were in the series, I think I'm maybe okay with it, with Booker having done it. Like, there wasn't really any point where it felt like the Suns weren't in control of what was going to happen in this series. And this was game 3, right?
It was game 4.
Game 4. So, like,
game 4.
I think with knowing that the series is so well in hand as a coach, if it was me, I would be more inclined to let him vent a little bit, because, like, you got another round to play. You're about to eliminate your opponent. If it had been earlier in the series, if the series had been close, if it had been, like a game 5 or game 6, I might feel differently about it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That is a fair thing. So I think we've kind of done a little good breakdown for Suns and Nuggets. So next I wanted to be talking up, we got the Nets and Bucks still. So we got the Bucks tying it up, and then KD pretending like he's on 2K, I guess. Like, I was playing today, playing 2K, and one of my creative players, I couldn't even put up stats like that. My player could not.
I mean, like, what are these teams doing forcing me to be interested in what's going on? I didn't want to be interested in this series.
48 minutes.
I wanted to monitor this series from a distance. Like, okay, so let's start with the 48 minutes. Like, wow.
On just a recovering torn Achilles.
Okay, but there's another wow here that is going a little bit under the radar, I think. Because in that game, in that 48 minutes, the exiting defensive player of the year spent 0 minutes guarding Kevin Durant.
And that's why he said, I'm going to guard him next game. But Budenholzer was like, nah, I got PJ Tucker on him most of the game.
PJ Tucker.
I had PJ Tucker.
Listen, and I like PJ Tucker. I enjoy the way he plays basketball. I like him as a human being. PJ Tucker can't guard PJ Tucker cannot hold Kevin Durant. Defensive player of the year. How is your defensive player of the year not guarding Kevin Durant for an entire game?
And they're built the same too. So like skinny and lanky.
Giannis has the potential to be KD's hardest matchup in the league right now.
Which
this brings it all back around to how long have I been saying that the Bucks have a coaching problem?
Well, we'll get to that.
How many times have I said it?
We'll get to that. Stop talking with the coaching. We're getting that in a little bit. But okay, so looking at that stat line, it was 49 points. He got 17 rebounds, 10 assists, and he had a couple steals and a couple blocks in a really good shooting game. So it was 16 for 22, something like that. After the game, Giannis looked at the box score, and then he was just at the press conference, and he said, KD is the best player in the league right now. Do you agree? Just straight out.
I don't want to. I think I have to. I mean,
he's not necessarily MVP, but it's the best player. Like, if you're putting, like, all your money on someone, like...
I mean, okay, I will say, yes, he is playing better than anybody else. However, when you have that list of all-stars that's not in the playoffs for injury, it's going to be easy to be the best. It gets easier to be the best player in the league when all those guys aren't playing.
Well, he has his stars not playing either. His other ones. Or are you just saying...
I'm including them.
Okay, gotcha. Also, has Giannis impressed you this series? Because for me, at least, like, he looks almost like some of the games, like last game, it was like, oh yeah, this is Giannis. And then other games, I'm like, you're a liability right now.
I look at Giannis and I think of what Nick Nurse would do with him. And I go, what a freaking shame. What a freaking shame that that's how he's being used. Like, why? I looked at a tweet today, which was Giannis's shot chart so far in the series. All I got to do is leave him open, give him space from deep, and nothing is happening because he cannot hit anything. And then there's the whole free throws fiasco. Like, this is a 2-time MVP. What is going on with a coaching staff that is letting a 2-time MVP back-to-back regress like this?
And also, why is it taking so long? He's getting in his head every single second.
Every second of every game that he's either out beyond the three or at the line.
No, yep. When I was this last game that they won, that's when he had his best game, and that's when he didn't attempt a single three-pointer. I think he took a couple shots around like the 12 to 15 foot range, which that's perfect. That's how far I want him shooting out.
Well,
just be able to give me a mid-range.
I get that it's a 3-point lead now. I get it. You were supposed to put pieces around him so he didn't have to be out there. And you did. And they shot well. Chris Middleton has shot well. Drew Holiday has shot well. That was the plan. Like, you picked up those pieces. The piece you didn't get, Bogdanovich, also a shooter. That was your game plan. You got the pieces performed, and now in the playoffs, you're going away from the plan? Like, their GM needs to be fired, their coach needs to be fired.
I was going to say, like, I almost think GM, though, too, is that they're not able to get those players around. It's hard to, I mean, yes, this still goes on Coach Bud, where you should still be able to coach the players you get.
Yeah.
But if you're still trying to contend and you can't get other players to help out your coach, that also goes on the GM and president.
You know,
it's a whole.
There are so many missteps in this, going back to them not firing Budenholzer the season before Giannis's contract came up. Like, to me, all the way back then, I was like, this organization doesn't know what the hell they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. And I've just watched it get worse and worse and worse and worse until it's like, what? Like, they need to clean house. They have lost their way.
They need to Timberwolves themselves.
Oh.
That's just the motto with it. They just need to Timberwolves themselves up. They really care about Giannis's career.
Also, I have to say, I question Giannis's loyalty at this point, because it almost seems like it's blind loyalty. Because he has to know even more about what's going on in the organization. Oh, right. Parker's here with us, and he asked a question that actually leads me to another point I wanted to discuss, but it's coaching. So you decide if we do it now or later.
Just throw it out there now.
So,
well, I mean, it does. I do say, like, first of all, okay, I'll just start. Who's going to win Game 7, Jade?
It's hard for me not to think. Who? Where are they playing?
Okay, so that's a Brooklyn from Jade.
No,
okay.
I think Milwaukee. Like, everybody's hurt. Like, we just talked about how bad the Nuggets were without their second star in the playoffs. The Nets are missing 2 stars.
That passionate hug that Steve Nash had for Kevin Durant at the end. Yeah, thank you, Parker.
No. For the record, this has to be on the record. I think the Bucks. I think so. The thing that I was thinking about was that if they win Game 7, which Parker's talking about, do they still need to clean house? My answer is hell yes, they do. Even if they win Game 7, they can't coach their MVP to shoot free throws. They're coaching him to be outside from 3 all the time when he can't shoot. He's a defensive player of the year, and he is not guarding the other team's best guy, who might be the worst matchup KD can have. No, they don't, because they have no idea what the F they're doing. Like, that's kind of the motto of the story. They probably, and that's why I was talking to my boyfriend, and I was like, they're going to keep him if they win. They're going to keep him if they make the conference finals. That's exactly what's going to happen, and it's going to be terrible.
I feel like this has been the ongoing phrase for the year and a half we've had this show, is the Bucks need to fire Coach Bud. We could just have a whole segment every episode. Jade going off on the Bucks for not getting rid of Mike Budenholzer faster.
Listen, he's making a lot of money. People are making a lot of money figuring this stuff out. I'm not making anything. It's frustrating, okay?
Oh, fun stuff. All right, so we got another Western Conference series that's still going on. Jazz and Clippers. We saw Playoff P. I guess.
Saw him.
We got him. Which, first of all, I never knew that he declared himself as Playoff P.
You didn't know that?
I didn't know that. I was just like,
changes everything, doesn't it?
I thought he came up with that, or like that was like stated when he was he was in Indiana, like when he almost beat. I was just like, oh, that's where Playoff P, because he went off in that series. And then when I heard, oh, he named it after himself, I'm like, what an arrogant tool.
Yeah.
So, but are we going to see playoff P perform well enough for the rest of the series to close it out because Kawhi is more than likely out for the series.
Yeah, we're at game 7, right?
Yes. No, we're at game 6.
Game 6.
Clippers
I don't
are what?
know. I don't know if I trust him 1, potentially 2 more games.
It was a rough game for Donovan Mitchell last game, too.
Donovan Mitchell usually bounces back from rough games
That's what
fairly
I'm
well.
thinking. Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I trust self-declared playoff P. Like, we know what his playoffs have been like. And I'll say this. If it happens, if he shows up enough to close out this team, this Jazz team that's just rolling without Kawhi Leonard, I'll give him the playoff P.
I mean, would you rather have playoff P or Donovan Mitchell?
Donovan Mitchell.
You look like I offended asking you.
It's not close.
All right, so are we going to have to see, speaking of Mitchell, are we going to have to see some unbelievable play like we've been seeing him throughout the entire playoffs and even from the bubble last year? Or are we going to actually see a more well-rounded thing? Because that's what it's kind of been like. Either it's been a team-only thing and a little bit of Donovan Mitchell, or a whole hell of a lot of Donovan Mitchell and a little bit of the team. Are we going to see more of a balance this time around?
I'm not worried about a balance because I am a fan
Regardless,
of the Raptors
it's a W?
team. No, I'm a fan of a Raptors team that did that all the way to a championship. So I like that. When I was watching that game where who shot ridiculous in the first?
Game 3. They had Jazz had Bogdanovich go off in the first quarter.
That game. And they talked about it on the broadcast, but I remember noticing like the fact that he's making sure the hot guy gets the ball. Like, what's wrong with a superstar who knows when to let someone else get some shine? Who knows when
who's got the hot hand?
Who's got the hot hand? Like, why is he going to wear himself out? Because they might need him next game. When some other some other teammate of his is having the playoff game of his life, and that's how the Raptors played. I like the idea of you have a game plan, absolutely, but you have flexibility for those times when somebody is cold or somebody is hot, or there's still a flow to a game that you can't 100% plan for. You have to have a structure, but like you need to be able to sense what the game is doing too.
That is very true. So just came up. I was thinking to myself the other night when I was watching Utah on defense. They did a real good job, but then they started switching to man. They were always trying to get Rudy Gobert out to the top. Is he a liability? Like, yes, he's defensive player of the year, but offensively, it's really hard for him to get going. They pretty much have to spoon feed him everything. And like I said, if you switch and he's out on the perimeter, he's not that useful. So is he a liability right now for them?
I don't think he's a liability. I think that's a step too far. I think that he knows who he is. The Jazz know who he is. And I think that the coaching and the organization is smart enough to weigh what do we lose on him defensively from what are we gaining. Like, he's not putting up 0 points. He usually has double-digit points. I don't know what his average is, but he's a specialty player, and sometimes those still work. And it has to be the right system. And I think the Jazz system is okay for it. It's never going to be an ideal situation. You always want a guy that can do both, but not everybody does. And he does the defensive side so well, obviously.
I guess I'm just
defensive teams win playoffs. I know you are. I know.
But that was a legit thought, just because they were like purposely aiming for that switch.
I mean,
so that's why I was thinking with it, because they lost that game because that was one of the biggest things that Clippers were going at.
If you are dealing with a coach who is making a game plan and making adjustments in the playoffs, they're going to figure it out. And you're still going to have to beat whatever they come up with. This time, it's Gobert. If it wasn't Gobert, it would be something else.
True. I mean, I'm sure that Quinn Snyder can pay off anyone with his mobster friends. I still will always. He even has pinky rings. Heads up. Even has pinky rings.
Apparently, gregarious men wear pinky rings.
So, but when I saw that, I was like, of course he does. Of course he does. Okay, so going the last playoff series that is still going on right now, Philadelphia, Atlanta.
Wow.
So they had a 26-point lead. Do you know what the percentage of them winning going into the fourth?
It was low. Low.
Philadelphia had a 98.7% chance of winning that game.
That was crazy. So I didn't start out watching that game.
I stopped.
Yeah, well, and I keep if I'm not watching the game, I keep the score pinned to my live score. And so we were watching our favorite anime at the beginning of the fourth, and we were like, we'll check in, 5 minutes, see what the score is. And it was probably longer than 5 minutes, but whatever, the next time I picked up my phone, it was a 1-point game. And I was like, oh, we have to switch.
That's what it was for me. I checked it, and then I was just like, wait a minute. Huh? And I'm looking at the stats, and I was just like, I mean, Philadelphia still put up great numbers too with it.
0 points from Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris. Well, zero.
I didn't. I just saw. I was looking at Embiid. He went 11 for 13 that game from free throw line, and the 2 free throws were the last 2 of the game that would have tied him up. So. Well, okay, going on what you just mentioned with Simmons, is he a liability?
He is 100% a liability. He can't play. Why are they playing him at point guard still? Why? He is not a guard.
He's a point forward.
He is not a guard.
He shot 4 for 14 free throws last game. They're starting the hack-a-bed.
Those are not guard stats. Guards shoot threes.
Or at least can be a threat, at least.
At the very minimum, you can't leave them.
Yeah, you'd be like,
and make your defense easy.
Mm-hmm.
He's the best when he's exploding to the basket. He's a great ball handler. He doesn't want to shoot.
No, he doesn't. He looks scared to shoot.
He's terrified. He's obviously I've seen him shoot in high school. It wasn't an NBA ready shot, but it was a nice shot.
It's high school too, so that's something that should have just gotten better with time. Better.
So I did some research on this, and I found a radio interview with his high school coach. And his high school coach believes that some well-meaning idiot family member, idiot is my words, not the coach's, thought they knew what they were doing and messed with his mechanics in the summer between high school and college. And now he was a fairly big fish in a much bigger pond, and he couldn't shoot anymore. He never got over it.
He needs to meet up with Lonzo Ball's shooting coach. He needs to, because that guy fixed. Lonzo's a threat from 3 at least now. You just need to be a threat.
Every year he works on it in his summer workouts, and we see him hitting these shots guarded. Well, these guys are really playing. It's not all the way NBA competitive, but they're competitive.
But exactly.
And he's hitting these shots like they're practice shots, and it's where is that?
Mm-hmm.
Some of these guys are guys who guard him in the NBA.
Right, exactly. So
I just don't understand. But Embiid took the next step, and he is 100% the guy that will go and say, I believe, this is my opinion, he is the guy that will go to management and say, you get rid of him and get me someone to play with.
I think. Okay, this is something I just came up with now. Is Ben Simmons one of the most overrated players in the league?
He is I'm so disappointed because he moves beautifully. the way and if you ever watch his highlight reels, he is a beautiful basketball player. And it's not that he's physically injured. It's not that he can't do it, because he shows us every summer that he can.
So, staying with the Sixers here, if they blow it, is the Doc Rivers curse real? It's like there's this thing for football. There's the Madden curse. If you're on the cover for Madden, you're injured that next season. If you're part of a Doc Rivers squad, do you always blow it?
Here's the thing. Like, at a certain point, don't we just have to admit that the common denominator is Doc Rivers?
That's...
Like, are we there yet? Can we just have that conversation?
Everyone... Oh, well, he's got a title. Yeah, in 2008.
That's a lot. That's
13 years ago.
That's a millennium ago in athletics.
That's 13 years
ago.
Half the league that was playing then has retired already.
Like, legitimately have.
Like, Rondo's the only one in the league that's still on that team.
Like, yeah. And then, like, I'm the kind of person that I indulge my emotional reactions, but I like to think of things logically as well. And this is one of those situations that is like, is it a curse, really? Or is Doc Rivers just not all that?
I think he's overrated.
Like, at some point we have to shift from this curse nonsense.
I mean, it could be a little bit of both. But there is another team, actually, Atlanta, who's actually doing really well.
Atlanta, let's talk about Atlanta.
So can Atlanta just close it out game 6? Just, you know what, just like, we don't want to be going 7. Let's close it up in ATL.
I'm expecting them to close it down tonight.
Is this going to be a Trae Young, like, ooh, this will be something that we will always look back on for Trae?
I think we're already there. Like, Atlanta was 0% relevant, but, like, I mean, it's hard this year because I've heard some people say, like, with all of the injuries and all the All-Stars that didn't get to play in the playoffs, this season has to have an asterisk. And, like, I have a hard time arguing with that. That said, yes, I think everyone's crossing their fingers. Atlanta. I think they're like, listen, we're talking about Ben Simmons, whose entire problem is that he gets in his head. Do we think this is the guy that's going to pull out a 30-point game after a 0-point game? I don't think he's that guy. And an Atlanta team, like, nothing phases Trae Young. Nothing phases the man.
Nope.
Nothing.
Nope.
So I don't expect this to go to 7. I expect Atlanta to close it down.
Expect it. The only thing I'm worried about, as great as a defender as Clint Capella is, Embiid's been eating him up the entire series.
Well, let Embiid get his, because ain't nobody else hitting anything for the
just let them go 1-on-1 and let Embiid have a successful game, but then shut everyone else down. Make sure you got to guard Seth Curry, too. He's been going off.
You do have to guard Seth Curry.
Oh, my gosh. Who would have thought that?
Like, I was thinking, like, he's not the other Curry anymore. There are legitimately 2 Currys.
That's what I was just about to say, that here's a set of brothers that it's like, oh, you guys are, like, legit brothers that are good at basketball. It's not just...
Also, before I get the other reason for keeping Atlanta another round, they have the best beats in Atlanta. The best.
Oh, it's straight up Ben.
Ben's gone.
Unless Embiid wants out and asks out, Ben's gone. Ben is gone.
If I am Philly's front office right now, and this isn't going to happen because clearly nobody there is that smart, but if I'm in Philly's front office, I'm calling, as soon as they get eliminated, I'm calling up Embiid and being like, hey, listen, whatever you want.
Pretty much.
You don't have to say more than that. But, like, you need to give him some assurances, because right now Philly needs to keep him. and they need to figure out who to put around him if they want to stay relevant.
Oh wow.
Now they're not rebuilding when their star just got MVP or was just an MVP finalist. That's not when you rebuild.
Which he could have been. I arguably, as much as I hate saying this, if he would have been healthy enough,
he would have gotten it.
He would have gotten it.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I hate saying it, it's true. It's true. I mean, what he did this year.
That's what this show is all about, right? We don't always love the things that they do, but we respect their games.
I hate respecting his game.
We don't always like it. We don't always like it.
I never like it.
But that's how you know it's real.
That's how you know it's real. All right, so we got through those playoff stuff. Now, going back to Phoenix, they got a tricky situation. Chris Paul is out with protocol right now. So luckily, there's still a couple more days because this Clippers Jazz series still has to finish out.
Yes.
If you're Phoenix, how do you game plan for this? Like, what are you going to do if you're Monty?
Yeah, I mean, you got to do the best with what you have left. That's a coach's job, right? But like, dang NBA, like he's been vaccinated. And the NBA's protocols have not been updated to reflect the CDC's protocols. Had they been updated to reflect the CDC's protocols, he could play.
Well, this also leads to a quick side. So why hold this or this protocol? Why are they upholding it for this one? Because they have broken and made exceptions for players before the vaccine was even made out, like James Harden at the beginning of the season,
or LeBron James a month ago when he was at that booze whatever majiggy it was.
Yes, exactly. So
like, how can we make an exception for that, but we can't make an exception for the guy that got the shot? Like, what are we doing, NBA?
That's so. With that, we're gonna say Crowder. Yes, Crowder's
playing great.
I was just about to say, is this where you start having like your Bulldogs step up more as leaders?
I mean, I don't think you even have to ask him to do it.
True.
Jay Crowder knows what his role is. He knows when he needs to take. Like, he's that guy. He's still in the NBA for a reason.
So, what about Booker? If you're Booker, how much more pressure is this going to be? And this is also in the playoffs. Can you handle this pressure? If this were regular season, I could see it.
The thing that I've noticed every time I've watched a Suns game is that they don't look like a team on their first playoff run with this star. They never do. They never look out of control. They never, like, they're not making mistakes that you go, oh, it's their first playoffs. Like, they're a great team. They're coached well. They're a legitimate team. Like, they eat dinner with each other out on their own time. It's easy to like them. They remind me of the Raptors. I think that they are constructed in a way that, the Clippers are playing well, but Kawhi's out. I think they can take this.
It really frustrated me just seeing how they were like, oh, he's going to be out of all times of the year. Yeah. I feel like this should be one of the times that they made an exception. He's vaccinated. Everyone else around him, for the most part, has been vaccinated. Okay, fine. Isolate him for a little bit, but completely
he can still test positive, like back-to-back days or something like that.
Yeah.
But we heard this yesterday too. So, like, there's a chance that by tomorrow we hear he tested negative twice. We're gonna whatever.
Mm-hmm.
There's a chance the NBA goes, listen, we were rightfully cautious when we really didn't know a lot of what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
We have information from the CDC whose job this is, who are scientists whose job this is to do.
But we don't believe in scientists anymore, Jade. It's
Like,
only opinions nowadays.
Clearly. I had this conversation recently. But like, anyways.
Science is just opinion.
I can't go there.
Go on though. Protocol.
Not
Chris
all
Paul.
science is just opinion. Come on. So yeah, it's really it bothers me. If I was a conspiracy theorist, there would be a whole, LA's a bigger market thing. I'm sure
I'm
that
already doing that right
conversation.
now.
I was going to say, I'm sure people are already having that conversation. You've infected me. I never would have thought of that on my own before. Thank you very much. But to me, this is silly. It's like, I don't get it.
Well, continuing on the idea of everyone or of star players missing out on time, injuries, and injuries that it's really getting distracting at this point. Just some notable ones for the playoffs that's happened. Kawhi, they might be back now, but just general, Kawhi, CP3, LeBron, AD, Harden, Kyrie, Jaylen Brown, Kemba, Jamal Murray, Mike Conley, Porzingis, Oladipo, Embiid, Ibaka, and there's LeBron. Do we have to say that LeBron was right? So I'm going to read a quote on what he said about this season with all the injuries. They all didn't want to listen to me about the start of the season. I knew exactly what would happen. I only wanted to protect the well-being of the players, which ultimately is the product and benefit of our game. These injuries isn't just part of the game. It's the lack of pure rim rest before starting back up. 8, possibly 9 All-Stars missed playoff games, most in league history. This is the best time of the year for our league and fans, but missing a ton of our favorite players, it's insane. If there's one person that knows about the body and how it works all year around, it's me. I speak for the health of our players, and I hate to see this many injuries this time of the year. Sorry, fans. Wish you guys were seeing all your fave guys right now. So, do we have to say that LeBron was right?
Here's how I feel about this. If he voted no, I'm willing to give him his props. If he was willing to take less money and play less games than what they settled on, and he stood by his convictions and was in the minority of the CBA and the voters that didn't vote for it, all the props. If you saying this, but you weren't willing to take less money, meh. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you were right, but it means less to me.
So I also got saying the way that he was talking, it was a bunch of me, I did this, I did that. How arrogant is LeBron thinking that he was the main person or only one saying about anything of this?
This is the thing. I thought about this today and how we talked about during the bubble, some of the way that he spoke kind of lost some of his younger peers because of the way that he spoke and, the LeBron effect.
That's the only way to put it.
Without being really rude, maybe potentially, the LeBron effect. And so now I think he doesn't have the pull anymore that he thinks he does. I think that everybody else knows that he's crested and he hasn't caught up to that yet.
It hasn't hit him in the face yet with it all.
Well, he hasn't realized, I think he knows he's past his prime physically. I don't think he realized how quickly we were going to move on. Because when we moved on from basically MJ to him, social media didn't exist. We move on a lot faster now. Mm-hmm. And that means these younger guys that are Trae Youngs and Donovan Mitchells and Jokic and all of these guys that are coming up right now, Luka Doncic.
Me.
They know that LeBron is not in charge anymore.
So now that he's out already, this is their time.
Because they know it, we know it.
Regardless if they put an asterisk on this season, if there's any time for a player to snatch that title, it's now.
It's going to be wide open.
It's like
maybe the next season, by the following season, somebody will have locked it in, I think.
Yeah. But so with all these injuries too, is this a scheduling issue still, or is this also maybe even a medical staff? Because it's been seeming to be getting more and more injuries every year.
I think it is built-up fatigue.
Built-up fatigue?
And I think I finally have enough, there's probably enough data that I can do some research on a theory that I've talked about a few times, was the NBA used to schedule, a human being used to do the entire schedule like by hand, basically. He'd been doing it that way for decades. And when he retired, they gave it to a computer. And every single team I watched, their local broadcasters talked about how poor the schedule is now, how much more travel it is, and how much more tired the players are. Yeah. And that hasn't gotten better. So there was 2 seasons of that. And then we had COVID season. And then we had non-existent off season. And now we're having this season. People do not appreciate how much bodies need rest. Real restorative rest.
Especially when you do 9 months of working out.
And exactly. NBA players don't get it ever. And
they're paid to work out.
And now that the schedule is worse than it was when there was a human element to it, a computer can't think about what a player's body needs. All it sees is a bunch of dates and games that have to be slotted in and fit. That's it. There's a piece missing in the way that the scheduling is being done now. Nobody knew COVID was going to happen, but I think this started a few seasons ago. And it's been accelerated because of the pandemic and all of the fallout from that.
Which, just news also this week for it, they will be returning to the old regular season style of starting in October, ending in June, full 82 games, all-star game in February, going back to the original plan.
I know why they did it, because, money, but I don't think they should have.
Why not?
Some of these guys are going to play in the Olympics, assuming the Olympics happens. As of right now, they're going, Bradley Beal, Draymond
Green, Damian Lillard, and someone else just today signed on. Jason Tatum.
Yeah. So those
are Team USA so far.
Those guys are going to be playing internationally. And
Team Canada doesn't have Wiggins this year. Sorry, Jade.
They should have had a second shortened season, had a full rest with no international basketball during that off season, and then gone back to an 82 game schedule.
I mean, I do like having it start right at my birthday, so that's always cool.
I always want more basketball than less. But they're right. The product is not what it should be.
And that's a whole other thing that involves medical stuff that I don't think I could ever understand anyways. So I think we should go to coaching stuff, which I think we have a little bit more knowledge of because we don't have to worry about the human body. So there's been more hiring, which that means more openings. So firings of Stan Van Gundy from the Pelicans. I already put Budenholzer in there because it's just bound to happen with it. Carlisle walked away, but it was kind of and then also wrapping it up with Scott Brooks from the Wizards.
Yeah.
Any of these firings surprise you?
Well, Carlisle surprised me. That wasn't really a firing. Sounded like it was more of a parting of ways. But I was like,
was it
really?
But was it a mutual kind of yes, they both said, but there was some tension at the end there.
I don't know what's going on in Maverick Land. I don't know. Brooks didn't surprise me. The only I like Brooks was for Portland,
No, that was Terry
Oh,
Stotts. Brooks was for
Terry
for
Stotts.
Washington.
Washington. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all.
Really?
Not at all. You can't have Russell Westbrook getting triple doubles and Bradley Beal having 30-point games and lose and not look at your coach.
That is very true. That is a very, very true point.
And that happened more than once. More than once this season.
I'm surprised. Like, I'm slightly surprised with Stan Van Gundy being fired, but at the same time, well, no. The thing is, I was surprised with the hiring to begin with.
That's what I was thinking, because we agreed on that at the time.
Because, like, I think he's a good coach.
Yeah.
But for an established team,
and he's not a rebuilding coach.
No, he's not.
Give him the Sixers.
Doc.
Yeah.
Get rid of Doc.
Give Van Gundy the Sixers.
Oh gosh, then he'd get that title. Who do you think is going to be picking up a job the first out of just like those people I mentioned right there?
I'm not sure any of them are getting hired.
You don't think?
I think the NBA is feeling pressure to widen their coaching hires. And I think it's going to happen. I think we're going to see some more new first-time head coaches.
You don't think Carlisle's going to see a team pretty quick?
I said Carlisle.
I was going to say, like, I feel like if there's any team.
This was such weird news for me that I keep forgetting it happened.
No, like I said, it's been well, because then also the Mavericks have also parted ways with their president of operations, Donnie Nelson, who's been there for, I think it was like 25 years. This is the guy with Dirk, Steve Nash, getting the title team, getting Luka.
There's more going on than we're hearing.
Yes.
There's definitely, there's smoke.
And Mark Cuban says nothing. Parker the other day, yes, Becky's on the short list for a lot of them. So yeah. I just wanted to throw that one out there real quick. But so Luka supposedly is not happy with things. Do you see any truth to the situation?
So because I think strategically, I always kind of have to look at it on both sides. Given the fact that Rick Carlisle has left and the GM has been dismissed, I think that lends credibility to the possibility that Luka's not happy, because clearly other people aren't happy either with something going on there.
Porzingis not being happy either.
On the other hand, it's a contract year. You know, like, sometimes you're going to say stuff in a contract year that you might not say otherwise.
He's got more cards in his hands.
He's got a lot of cards. He's got all the cards, especially now that all this, he had all the cards before. Now he's got a royal flush. Yep. Now that all this other upheaval is happening.
Mm-hmm.
Someone's going to pay him if he decides to move on. And is he still on the contract where the Mavs can offer him more money to stay?
I think this is his final season to get that max extension, because he hinted at it playfully.
Yeah.
The same time, Porzingis was like, I hate my role on the team. And it's like, well, you're Kyle Kuzma pretty much, so be quiet.
Dude, you're scared to go in the paint. Talk to me when you're ready to bang down low, and then we'll talk about your role on the team.
The rookie Porzingis that was dunking over people.
You're 7 feet tall. You don't get to play at the perimeter all the time.
Mm-hmm. There was a reason why you're called the unicorn, because you could shoot the three, but you also had everything else.
Yeah.
But where does Cuban go from here with because I don't know if he's had this kind of adversity before. He's had bad teams, but not this kind of drama.
Yeah, I mean, there was a bit of a conversation I saw on Twitter today where can we have the conversation now that Mark Cuban's a bad owner? Unless I hear a lot more stuff coming out, we're nowhere near having that conversation. But
he's still one of the best.
Some people think that we are. You know, I saw conversations. Oh, that's a good update. I saw conversations comparing him to James Dolan today, and I'm like, what is happening? What is happening?
Thanks for the update.
So yeah, I don't think we're anywhere near there. Something is going on, and or maybe it's just time for a change. Maybe Rick Carlisle, like I don't know. If I was him, I'd be looking at this team and going like, we're like 3-4 seasons from championship contention, realistically, with how things turned out with Porzingis.
He was 13 years with the team, I think it was.
Maybe he's like, I'm not going to coach forever. I would like to be able to fight for a championship one more time before I hang it up. I can see that.
A move that was just announced today was that they have now hired Dirk, Dallas has, as a advisor. He's not going to be there for day-to-day things, but he's going to be involved with players, player movement, and coaching stuff.
His first job is GM and coach, from what I've read. So
yeah, those are the first two things.
Also announced today, off topic but still NBA related. Apparently, Jenny Buss and Mindy Kaling and somebody else are doing a Netflix show based on the Lakers front office.
I love Mindy Kaling.
I do too. So that makes this a conflict for me because I love her and I'm going to watch it because she's in it and it's basketball related. I'm not a huge fan of Jenny Buss, and it's the Lakers.
there's a lot of conflicting things with it. But with Mindy Kaling, there's going to be a bunch of funny, quirky moments that's going to make you.
She's great.
I love her. I love her. But okay, with another unhappy star though that's going on is, I don't know if it's necessarily him, but Zion's family wants him out. Should they just be quiet? It's not their contract. It's not their life. It's his.
It's not. But I mean, he's young.
Not his life?
It is his life. But parents, like, black parents are black parents, okay? We all didn't have your parents, Taylor.
Hi, Dennis. Hi, Karen, by the way.
Some black parents have boundary issues. Sometimes they're right. It hasn't been great for him there. But
it's been 2 seasons, and he has barely played a full season.
Listen,
healthy-wise. Like, they've
been drinking
Does he have enough cards to do that?
They've been drinking the Kool-Aid with him for all these years, and it's not going well, and they're freaking out.
It's not going well for him?
It hasn't been good for him. They might not be able to see the fact that it's injuries and it's extra stuff that nobody could have controled.
So then, why are they freaking out then? It's all because of him too, with the injuries.
Well, we don't know what else is going on in that organization. The organization is not known for being a great organization in the NBA. They're not known for being the worst. But they don't have a reputation.
Well, David Griffin's also just a horrible person.
Right? So, like, maybe there are things going on that they have legitimate reasons for saying this isn't a good spot. They might be right. When it comes between, like, black parents are going to say what they're going to say.
That was the other thing, too. Why do we care so much about what his parents are saying?
Like, he hasn't said anything, but he's young. And it seems like he's tight with his family. They probably have a bit of a sway. But in situations like this, like I just always say I'm so far removed from it. There could be valid reasons. They could be being nosy. Like, we don't have enough information to judge one way or the other.
I just know that there's been hints of his family saying the Knicks, which this was the team that they were saying from the get-go that the New Orleans needed to trade him to New York. So that's where it's also coming into with that. But one news thing that I am really happy with is they're going to be looking at one of my least favorite issues, which is the new shooting foul rule, which is for those of you who don't completely understand what I'm saying, just think of when James Harden does where he pump fakes And he's not really actually going for a real shot, but he leans into a person and flings the ball up. Mm-hmm. So when I saw that get brought up, it was James Harden, Trae Young, Luka, and then I can't remember what the other player was, but those were the 4 main players that they were mentioning because they're the major culprit. Is this about damn time they've looked into this, Jade?
So time. Like, this essentially makes a pump fake an automatic foul for these guys. Like, a pump fake is meant to be used to trick your defender off their feet.
But go.
A pump fake should be used to trick a defender off the feet. If the defender is dumb enough to leave his feet and run into you, that's a legitimate foul. But for you to pump fake so that he leans, but he's still not making contact, and then you initiate contact, that is some bull. Like, that to me, I don't like a lot of the ways that people say that the league is soft now. I think it's different. I think it's different in a lot of ways that it needed to be different for the health and safety of guys.
You can't tackle a player like you did in the 80s because the players today are much more athletic. They're in the air a lot higher.
Right. So some of it changed because it needed to, and in some ways it's made the game better. This is a thing to me that feels like the league is too soft. They're making it it's been too easy for shooters because of things like this. I've also, and I'm not sure if this is included, but something I read makes me feel like it's included when a jump shooter is defended by a guy who jumps straight up and down and lands in the same spot, but the shooter jumps forward. There's a lot of inconsistency with that call too. It should not be a defensive foul if the shooter isn't also landing in generally the same spot that they jumped from. You can't blame that on the defensive player, but that call gets called both ways. Mm-hmm. It's maddeningly inconsistent.
Do you still consider it just like a common foul, like the swipe through that Kevin Durant did? They still call it a foul, but it's just a common foul.
It's a common foul.
Okay,
sure.
So that's the other thing too. Do you still call the foul, or are you just like play on, just do that? Another question I have with it is, since most of those foul calls are being tried to be called from deep, since it's not going to be really a thing anymore, does this possibly actually lead to less 3-point attempts in the mid-range game coming back?
I hope so, because there has been an overcorrection in the NBA to the 3.
But this past playoffs, though, it's been the mid-range game. If you've been able to get the mid-range, those are the games.
Well, because nobody's planning for it anymore. Like, everything comes back around. And the 3 is never going to go back to being as unimportant as it used to be. Like, it's always going to be more than when I was growing up watching NBA.
Oh, yes.
But there needs to be an adjustment where there is more consistency in, if the 3's not falling, we're going to do something else, right?
No, yeah, we're fixing it.
We're going to try something, because so many teams don't, and it's mind-blowing.
I always, whenever someone talks about all the 3s people that they shoot in the league today, well, I always go back to, I've never actually seen it, but Facebook, when they had like their own little TV channel, they had a documentary called The Man Who Ruined Basketball. And it was all about Steph Curry. And like, I think he produced it, or like he was involved with it. So it was just like, so he's like, yeah, I know about this. Yeah. But like, if it wasn't for Steph Curry, I honestly don't think we'd have this 3-pointer craze that we have. Because he's a video game.
He is.
He's a video game.
But like, he's created more video games behind him.
Yeah, Damian Lillard, Trae Young.
Like, sometimes things change because somebody says, I don't care, this is how it's always been done. I can do it this way. And then they do it.
And then you just get the Curry brothers, and then you got Dad there being like, yeah, we got the best shooting family ever. I don't think,
like, this is going to sound weird to say, but within just like fans of the game, I don't think Steph Curry gets enough credit for literally changing the way the game is learned and played. Mm-hmm. Who's done that?
He's a new generation of basketball with it.
Yeah.
A whole new generation of basketball. So last thing I really don't want to talk about it because it's against for my sanity with it. But they finally released the Rookie of the Year. My first question I have is, why do you think it was the last one to be released?
I don't know what is going on with the awards this year. It seemed like they took longer to all get announced too. Like, I don't understand
MVP's
a lot
usually
of it.
MVP's usually the last one to get announced, and Rookie of the Year is usually like the first or second to be announced.
I don't know. I will say they've been making more of an effort to make letting the player know a little bit personal. So maybe there was scheduling things. I'm grasping here because I really don't get it.
I saw the video of Bridges showing Ball or like saying like, "Oh, you won Rookie of the Year," and Ball's like, "Oh no, this is great." My theory is the reason why it took so long was that they could not decide between LaMelo and Ant, and they were like,
"You think it was that close?" Well, they released the ballot, don't they?
What?
They released the ballot for all the voting.
Ant got a third place vote, which just that offended me. I was like, okay, fine, don't give him the trophy. That's just another chip on his shoulder to go along with how he shouldn't have been the first overall pick, which that's a whole other argument for stuff. But is LaMelo your choice for Rookie of the Year, Jade?
Yeah, he was.
He's your choice? That is fair. My next question is, say Edwards won. Would you have understood why? The difference for me is that Anthony Edwards has a leader on his team. LaMelo had to be the leader on his team in his rookie year, and he handled it. We have a really weak leader.
But it's still an established pecking order.
But also that leader was out for 27 games this year. And then we also had, for most of the season, the worst coach in the NBA.
Who finished with a better record?
Like I said, Rookie of the Year, I think, is one thing that does not have to do with team. I think when so many of the other things kind of balance each other out, like I think you and I have points and counterpoints that kind of cancel each other out. I think once you cancel enough, that's kind of what's left to look at. Because like also LaMelo does have overall just around him a better team. Like they were still winning even when he was out with injury. Yes, they may not win as much, but you still have Terry Rozier there. You still have Gordon Hayward has been doing really well down there. Devontae Graham's a solid player too. Like there are players that were there to pick up slack. That is my one thing. But I still understand LaMelo winning Rookie of the Year. He did great. The injury thing, that's also kind of a little thing. Like Edwards played full 72. LaMelo, granted, it's hard to, if you break your wrist, it's hard to be like, well, look at that. So, but okay, well, I think we got a lot of stuff done today, considering everything that's been happening. There's probably some news happening right now that we just completely missed, but that
we'll
means
later.
Y'all just need to get your own Bleacher Report update stuff, and then we can all worry about that. But now that we got that all set, now it's time for the fast break. My favorite time of the episode, where I come up with 3 questions and I try to stump Jade and Shay, who, oh yeah, by the way, Shay is not here tonight. She has a new job and they need to do training for her, but congrats with her new job. She's back in Brooklyn too. So yay. See you next week, Shay, with that. But fast break, 3 questions, doesn't know ahead of time. Let's get this going. So I did a combination of point guards as players. I do a combination of like, so I have a point guard that has the skills of Damian Lillard, of Chris Paul, versus a point guard that has the skills of Luka and Lowry. Who are you taking in a one-on-one battle at a 21?
Dang. That's not nice.
I threw the Luka Lowry combo because I knew that would really also make you more torn.
Like, I really like that combo, but I think I gotta take Dame and CP.
Because I was thinking, like, I tried to think of also like a defensive player for the Luka side. Yeah. I was like, well, Lowry is a bulldog of a player. I was always a league leader with charges taken. So I was like, he may not be that quick, but he can still defend pretty well.
I mean, I would take either of those point guards for my team.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Clear, but like
either point guard, you can't go wrong. Both one's gonna win MVP for you.
One-on-one, yeah. I think I gotta take Dame and CP.
Okay, so just like we were talking earlier in the episode about how important free throws are. End of the game, you need to put one free throw in to put it by one. Ben Simmons or Giannis.
I saw this week and I tweeted.
I don't know if you saw me typing towards the end there, but it was me readjusting one of the fast break questions for that.
I saw, and I'm like, first of all, what did I do wrong that these are my choices? Like, I'm sorry, that would never happen to me, first of all. And like, I thought about it because I saw this tweet and I thought about it for like 10 minutes and I couldn't pick because they're both terrible. Like, terrible.
4 for 14? Damn.
Like, come on.
Giannis is 42% for the playoffs? Damn.
You can't be 40. Like, you can't be.
If you're going to be the talent that Giannis is at, you have to be at least like a 70%.
You have to be better than league average if you have the role on your team that Giannis has on the Bucks.
Mm-hmm. So
and especially since you play down low. Damn it, Taylor.
I'm not going to let you forget the question. You're getting to a whole new topic, which is great, but no, I need an answer for this one.
They're both so bad.
That's why.
I'm going to take Ben. Honestly, I would. If I had a coin, I would have flipped it.
That's fair. That's what I would have done too. And then the last question of the day, continuing with the Giannis kick. How do you spell his last name?
AntetokouMNPO. I switched the M and the N at the end. Yes, no.
You are correct with the correction with the N and the M. That's impressive.
I made it a point to know how to spell his name when I was writing.
That was impressive because I was either gonna do him, or I gotta find who it was. But then I was gonna do him or the guy. Oh, I can't find him. Like the Alexei Karishner that's on OKC.
Know. That one I don't know. And Antetokounmpo is spelled exactly as it sounds. So if you know how to pronounce it correctly, it's easier to spell. The Scandinavian names, like those are hard. Those are harder.
Yorfin Snorgenforg. I can say that. I'm Scandinavian. I'm like full Scandinavian. I'm Norwegian as hell. All right. Well, this has been a real fun episode. A nice, juicy episode for everyone. Because it's been super fun today with it. Jade, have you been able to get all your basketball out?
I didn't think we would. I didn't know we would get all the way through it, but we did it. We can start with a fresh slate.
Yeah. Whoa. But okay. Well, on that note, we will see you guys next week.
Bye, y'all.